So I couldn't wait to record. So I just want to talk about this upcoming full moon in Sagittarius. So this is going to come in parts because I want to talk about, often when I get my downloads, I'm driving because I have a Sagittarius moon natally, and it's a pretty interesting transition. So 2 days before the Sagittarius full moon, the planet ruler, so that is like so Jupiter, I'm so bad with words, I might have to cut this part out. Actually, I might keep this part in. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and Jupiter is going to be entering the sign of Cancer on the 9th of June. So 2 days before the full moon, where the ruler of that moon, Jupiter, enters a water sign, which is a great transition. It's just that when you look at the chart of this full moon, there's a lot of locked in energy to a mutable sign that wants to be free. So the fire sign of Sagittarius wants to be free, but we have squares. Now, we're not going to have exact squares until about a week later, but there's squares between Jupiter in Cancer and Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So there's the influence of this energy with Jupiter that's kind of locking it down. And it's got me thinking about, and there's other squares going on as well, but it's got me thinking about how we're going to receive information that's going to be changing us in many ways. We're also, I believe, going to be having the influence of a square between Venus in Taurus and Pluto in Aquarius. So I think we're going to have some key information, and we already had this news report with, like, you know, Donald Trump, Elon Musk kind of going through a fight, but there's more information to be received on a global scale right now. And I'm in Los Angeles, and today there's massive protests against ICE. Now, Sagittarius is, you know, it's about, you know, the idea that we are all connected no matter where we're from. One of the most generous signs in the zodiac. And Sagittarius is like international policy as well as spiritual expansion. And how much more spiritual can it be that you literally have a body, ICE being quote unquote this regulatory body trying to overtake literally people that this country is founded by. I'm recording from the United States in LA, and Cancer represents the home. So, you know, United States, based on the contract of the Declaration of Independence, which went through a very recent Pluto return during the Great Conjunctions, we have not left the time of the Great Awakening. It's only ramping up. It's a really freaking big deal. And, you know, immigration policy is a huge part of this full moon, but it doesn't stop with that. It's about the idea of the generous heart, the generous mother, the generous, you know, Jupiter being in Cancer in the sign of the moon, the mother, the ruler of Cancer is the mother. This is a fucking big deal. This is a fucking huge deal. It's such a big deal to look at the morals and standards, and obviously I'm stepping on a soapbox because that's part of the Sagittarius way, but to look at the morals and standards and see that continually this bullshit is going down. So big good vibes to the fact that ICE got locked into a building, but also like the idea of, you know, where I stay, if them M and F'ers even even try this place, there's going to be tumbleweeds, because this entire area is such the backwards thinking of this bullshit, right? And I'm saying this from breaking this down with the knowledge of astrology. I am an astrologer. I am very much saying my opinion and stepping on the soapbox right now, but when's it gonna give? This is Gestapo. This is Gestapo. If you separate families, if you separate a father from his daughter, a mother from any of her children, if you go into a school and during a graduation, that's Gestapo. And at this point, it's like, what do you want this country not to run at all? Because this country runs on immigrants. This country was built on the death and the back of indigenous people. And I'm including, like, when I say indigenous people, I'm like, black people were here, and that is the blood of America. Literally spilling the blood, literally taking away people's rights. Fucking bullshit. I think a lot of people with European roots are going back to Europe for a reason, because I'm from Croatia and Eastern European roots, and the reason why my family was able to make their way into the United States, which they changed the last name, which translates to light-skinned Jew. That's what my last name translates to, which was changed, is because my family had to sign a contract to work for steel mills outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So it's just so fucking wild to me that Gestapo is doing what it's fucking doing. And this is energetic. This is the spirituality of what's going on. I know a lot of astrologers say, politics aside, what, as above, so below, motherfuckers. Like, that's what's going on. As above, whether you believe the moon is helpful or a hurtful tool, what am I saying? The moon is a helpful tool. It regulates our emotions, our astro cycles. There's conspiracy theorists who think the moon is a technology that was put here for a reason, but whether or not, whatever it is, the moon regulates our emotions, our water cycles, and the fact that Jupiter is in a water sign means the moon is gonna go mad extra. And so does Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the philosopher. Sagittarius is here to be like, yo, like, how do we make the world a better fucking place? But also, like, point to, with the bow and arrow and be like, we gotta shoot at the moon. Haha. So I could not stop myself. Like, I've been thinking for the last few days, how do I tackle this as a video? And I was on my way to get a Baja Blast. And for any of my Baja Blast fans, like, a Baja Blast be a source of inspiration for some of us, So this is a time to keep it moving, but there's gonna be more to the story. There's gonna be a hell of a lot more to the story. This is not over. And based on the timing of the moon, I really want to say that it's most likely going to be around when we get into September and we get into mutable eclipses. So we're going to have a mutable eclipse series September 2025. Now, eclipses are periods of time. Yes, we have eclipse dates, but usually we feel the ramp up of that energy. So I think that a part of the story and these protests are going to make their way through. I do think Trump is a huge part of this. I think Elon Musk is not going away. I think I'm going to say it, I'll say this on stage as a comedian, and this is my opinion only, but based on charts and timing and the fact that Trump is a Gemini, he plays both sides. He's a poker player, chess player. He's Vegas odds. Like, this guy is playing both sides. I think it was a nudge, wink, wink, like we're going to have a fight. But really, there's just too much that Elon's doing, you know? I think he just got in the news too heavy and they needed to have a conflict of interest story. And again, this is a horoscope that's gone off the rails a little bit, but the reality is we're waking up to a lot of stuff that's going on. So I'm going to try and figure out how to make a more concise video. This is just me putting my thoughts out there with the current energies, but we're being played still. And Sagittarius, if you go back and watch anything Trust Your Glitter podcast, I have an old podcast on astrology. Most of my videos about either Sagittarius new moons or full moons are about gambling. Because at the end of the day, Sagittarius is a strategic gambler. There's other, the shadow and the light of Sagittarius, but if you want to talk about poker and chess, blackjack, anything like that, Sagittarius is the horseman, the horse person, horse racing. This is gambling, and we're gambling right now. What's being gambled with are people's livelihoods, stability, family matters. And with Jupiter and motherfucking Cancer, you can't gamble with somebody's family, and that's what ICE is doing. So I know this took us on a word weave, as Trump would say, but I'm not saying that as somebody who's a fan of his. I'm just saying that as somebody who watches the astrology, who, with the fact that these are mutable signs, there's a little give and take here. So there's a lot of watch, wait, and see what else happens. Now we're going to get into Cancer season after this, so things will get a little bit more understandably spicy. But with that, there's a lot to understand. And so I don't know if I'm going to actually cut this video up or just kind of put this up as is, because this is a really big deal. And I want to say lots of love to anybody who's had to deal with any BS. Take care.